Well, hey, friend, welcome to Leadership Pathway. My name is Dave Miller. It's great to be with you. I love having these conversations like we're going to have today. As always, thanks to Norton Creative and House Right and CMO.Church. I'll put links to all of those people in the show notes. And I also want to let we're all about helping churches find and keep and hang on to leaders. And if you're wondering how to do that, this book, I'll put a link to it. Who's the Next You? Really from what is a residency all the way through how to help people launch in full-time ministry. That's what this book is. And I'm told it's pretty good. At least the part that I did not write is pretty good. That's what I'm told over and over. So grab a copy. I'll put a link below, but I'm always fascinated to talk to interesting people. And today I think I have an interesting people. That book is centered on 20 to 25-year-olds. That's where most of our work is. But I always say occasionally there are these people that are outside that age range. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Michael Mueller, welcome.
Hey Dave, how are you?
I'm doing great, man. We're recording on MLK, so it's kind of chill, casual day. There's not a lot going on, and we got a little snow in Denver, so it feels like one of those kind of lazy days. I don't know what the rest of the day is going to bring, but I'm happy to speak to you today. Introduce yourself. Who are you and what are you doing and where are you today?
Well, my name is Michael Mueller, and I am currently a pastoral resident at Valley View Christian Church. It's just to the south of Denver, in a little town called Roxborough Park. We have a congregation of about 1,000, and I was brought on a year ago in November through Leadership Pathway as a way to grow myself in leadership. And the story behind this, Dave, is I've been praying. I've been praying for mentors and leaders because I really wanted to be a pastor. And for 28 years of my life, I ran restaurants and knew that I loved people. And God was moving me towards the logical conclusion, wanting to serve Him of just wanting to be a pastor. And so I've been praying for leadership, and I've been applying to churches and going to school, thinking that that was the end all of what I needed. I had to have my MDiv, and I had to have my bachelor's degree in biblical studies, and all those things that were very important to me. But what I didn't understand was that there's much more to it beyond that. And I was praying for a mentorship, um, and Leadership Pathway landed in my lap. And I, kind of question is like, well, I'm at this point, I'm 50 years old, 51 years old actually. And, is this something that, is for me? And so taking the leap of faith, I called out to you guys and um, met your wife, Kristen, and we recorded a video. And I ended up landing a residency here at Valley View, which has gone so well.
So you remind me, were you not attending Valley View before going on there as a resident? You weren't.
No, no. I see. I was down in Castle Rock, and I was working with
Okay.
two other churches in their addictions ministries to
Okay.
kind of grow and develop those at a place called Ridgeline Community Church, um, and it's like a sister church of Valley View,
Mhm.
called Front Range.
Okay.
Down there, we were working on their Celebrate Recovery. So I was working with different churches, and I was actually working as a manager at Chick-fil-A when I
Okay.
found this
Okay.
opportunity.
You said I think you said you wanted to be in ministry or you knew you wanted to be a pastor.
Well, I
What did that look like and how long has that been a thing in your life?
so I came to faith late in life. Like at 33 years old, I was saved. I was unfortunately suffered under the burden of addiction for 20 years. So from the time I was 13 to the time I was 33, I was an addict. And I received my salvation at 33, and my sobriety. So I just celebrated this past Christmas Eve 18 years of sobriety. But I knew in that moment, when I was saved, that I had to, because of the burden I felt of sin, I knew that I had to dedicate the rest of my life to serving Christ,
Mm,
as most people do when they
yeah.
get saved.
Yeah.
But for me, it was a little more profound. God kept putting people in front of me at my restaurant. I had a great platform to do ministry, but he kept putting people in front of me that were clearly intended so that I could help them walk out of addiction and deal with their addictions.
About that.
And so I just started with a group called Mean Street Ministries here in Denver, homeless outreach and evangelism group, and worked with them to develop a discipleship program where we could invite people who are homeless and
Yeah.
indigent into a loving community and kind of get that Christian non-Christian transfer.
Yeah.
And we saw a lot of people come to Christ through that. And so God was moving me along that path as I was using my restaurant as that platform. But it was in 2020 when God said, hey, your restaurant's great, but the legacy of it is about you. It's not
Mhm.
about me. You
Yeah.
can use this and you can stay here and it's all great. But really what's in your heart of hearts is that you want to pastor, shepherd people in Christ.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it at that moment he said to me, spoke very clearly, this is not about you and not about me. And I knew that because my passion had gone out of serving at the restaurant. The restaurant had become burdensome, and mostly what I wanted to do was ministry. And so I did. We ran this discipleship program over at Main Street. So it was very clear to me that God was calling me into the ministry.
That's very cool. I'm assuming, Michael, you've been in restaurant work for 28 years. That's a tough place to be struggling with addiction, I'm assuming. And I
Yeah,
don't know anything about the restaurant world other than when I can look back in the kitchen, it's tattoos and it's rock and roll looking guys that probably do all sorts of things back there. And I'm assuming that was not an easy path that you were in to get out
no,
of.
no. So for the first 10 years of my restaurant tenure, um, I worked with I basically came down from college. I failed out of Colorado State University because my addictions were taking control of my life.
Wow, wow.
And I came down to Denver. My mother was kind of turning her wheels, and I kind of duped her into thinking that a little supper club with food and bar and music would be a great thing to do. Well, really, what the sin inside of me was doing was like create a space that you can just sin at will. And so we decided that that would be something we wanted to do. So we bought a bar in Lakewood called the Jewel Street Junction,
Mm,
and under the auspices of being a supper club. And we tried that for a little while, but live music is very expensive.
mm,
And so if you're a one off that doesn't do much advertising, you really can't
mm.
sustain that for very long.
Yeah.
And so we ended up becoming a neighborhood gin joint where people would just come to foster their addictions. And so, I basically created for myself a space where I could just sin at random, at will, basically.
How about
And so
that?
that ruled over my life, and that became very, very heavy upon me.
Now you wound up at you mentioned Chick-fil-A
Mhm.
was your last gig. How long were you with Chick-fil-A?
2 months.
Oh, you were with
2 months.
Chick-fil-A 2 months.
Hmm.
I thought you were one of these I hear the Chick-fil-A path and it almost sounds like a church.
I love it.
Leadership development and stuff. So that wasn't your path though.
I love it. Well, so the reason why God put me at Chick-fil-A, okay, and I say
Yeah.
God put me at Chick-fil-A,
Yeah.
was when I graduated with my degree from Colorado Christian University in
Uh-huh.
biblical studies.
Yeah.
I thought I was ready, man. I was like, I'm a pastor now. My 10 years of ministerial experience, doing this stuff on the streets,
Yeah.
I'm ready. It's
Yeah.
I'm ready to go. And so I started applying, just shooting out applications to
Mm.
churches
Right.
with no real tangible ministerial experience.
Right.
What I thought I was doing on the street was tangible, but
Yeah.
that's not really what churches are looking for.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, and so when I was getting very frustrated with God,
Right.
and so I kept saying, God, well, why aren't you doing this for me? Why aren't you doing this for me?
Yeah.
Why aren't you opening this door?
Yeah.
And God's sitting there saying you cannot have this, when you want it. If this is
Yeah.
like your heart's desire, it has to be mine, not
Yeah.
yours. Listen to what I said to you when you sold the restaurant.
Right.
And so he wound me all the way back and put me in a restaurant again to humble me and say,
Uh,
Mike, you have to do this now
wow.
and stay here. And I fully committed to 2 years there to finish
Hmm.
my MDiv at Denver Seminary during that period.
Yeah.
But during that time, he's starting to open the doors. I met the guy that I think it's Steve Spag something or other, who started Mark Men for Christ.
Okay.
Steve Spagnola, who
Okay.
started Mark Men for Christ. He came in there quite often. We pray together.
Oh.
He put people in my way that were from that were immigrants,
Mm.
didn't have Bibles, and
Mm.
so I buy them Bibles in Spanish, and I speak a little bit of Spanish, so
Yeah.
we connect over that. So God is developing me in me this shepherding spirit
Yeah.
that's in surrender to Him. And so through this time, I stopped applying for jobs.
Mm.
I'm thinking, I'll just finish my MDiv and then I'll just that'll be it. But really what I was doing was rebooting what I thought in when I graduated from CCU,
Mm.
that it was going to be something that I just had the paper, I could wag it in front of people's faces, and this would
Yeah.
be the way.
Yeah.
But then Leadership Pathway came,
Mm.
and I read, it was an application on Indeed. They said, oh, if Valley View is looking for something, this is a leadership, and it took me to your website, and I was like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
I don't need a lot of money right now.
Yeah.
I sold all my restaurant and everything God
Okay.
provided for me there.
Yeah.
So why not do this? Why not, while I'm doing school, why not pursue some real and tangible um, training
Yeah.
to just to know what it means to be a
Right.
pastor?
Yeah. That's
And this is an
amazing.
answer to prayer.
Draw some parallels. I mean, I feel like every day, Mike, we're involved in this spiritual thing, right? God is at work, the Holy Spirit is engaged. God's working in churches and he's working in people. And where I'm embedded, you could see his hand. But
Yeah,
it's always in a context.
yeah,
Like gravity pulls us to earth and there's principles at work here. And if I said to you, I want to be the GM of a successful, nice restaurant, one that's successful and growing. And so I could probably go get a hospitality degree somewhere at a university. I know I could get it in UNLV in Las Vegas because we used to live there. And there was a lot of kids in this world. They wanted to go into hospital or into hotel work, right? And
yeah,
restaurant work. So you go get a degree in it. Can you see parallels between graduating with a degree in restaurant management, probably, but with no
right.
experience in leading and putting up with wait staff and how to set a kitchen up and leading all the intensive leadership in a restaurant. Do you see parallels in the world between that and the church work that you're doing now?
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. Ministry is hard at its heart is hospitable, and so the heart of hospitality is we're in the friends business, not the money business.
yeah,
And if you're not making friends, then you're not making money.
yeah,
And I used to teach that based upon the narrative of Jesus girding himself with a towel and washing people's
yeah,
feet. And I
right.
used that as a model. I said, if this is the model of what real hospitality is, the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords can bend his knees and wash the disciples' feet. This is how we should be serving people.
Yeah,
Very same thing is happening in church. But with when you come out of something with a degree, and I was missing the point because who did I have mentoring me through my formative years in the restaurant? My mother. My mother was my business partner.
mm,
She was teaching me things that I needed to know. Of course, she passed away unfortunately in 2011 due to lung cancer. She was a lifelong smoker, but
mm,
by that time I had been grounded in this mentorship and knowing how to manage staff, manage inventory,
mm,
uh, prepare food that people want to eat, things like that. That if you just have a vanilla degree, you don't understand that. And this is why in year one of any restaurant startup, 70% of them will fail
yeah, yeah,
because people just don't understand what's involved
yeah,
in the gravitas that comes with managing a restaurant.
yeah. Let me
Um,
ask you, do you like this is going to be a funny question. Do you like eating out?
I do. I
Do you?
do.
When you walk into a restaurant, what are you looking at when you walk in? I'm just curious. Like, you're looking at surely you're looking at it differently
Everything.
than I would
I'm
be
looking at
looking
the
at.
operation.
Yeah,
My wife tells me constantly, turn off your restaurant mind. Turn
right.
it off. We're here to enjoy ourselves.
Right.
Stop watching the staff. Stop watching the way they
Yes.
serve us.
Yeah.
So I have to turn that off. And
It's
for us,
hard though, isn't it?
it is. It
And I
is.
would say it's another parallel to Kristen and I. I mean, we're in, I don't know how many churches a year, a lot. And it's gone
Yeah.
on now for a couple of decades. It's hard to walk in and just walk in as like I am, a person in need to worship God and connect with Him and slow down and be quiet and listen to the true truths of the Word and be, transformed a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's really hard because
Yeah.
I'm looking around and it starts at the parking lot. It probably for you, pulling into a restaurant starts at the parking lot. You're walking
Absolutely.
up to the door and you're having thoughts. What are you thinking?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first is the name. What is the name? You
Yes.
know, we had we used the cozy cottage breakfast and lunch for hours.
Okay.
But one of the incarnations of the restaurant after this was after the bar. So
Yeah.
we had it was called It's the Pits Eatery. Very short lived. But think about that. Think about it. Do you want to go eat at some place that says It's the Pits? So when I first I'm walking up to the restaurant, I'm saying, what is their name trying to convey to me?
Yeah.
And then you walk through the door. Is the host attentive, or am I standing there, being ignored? The same thing goes for a church. You walk in the
Right.
church and
Right.
you want to see a smiling face. You want
Right.
somebody there. If I'm new, I
That's
want
so
somebody
good.
right there saying, "Hey, welcome to the church. Are you new here?
Yeah.
Oh, here. Let me
Yeah.
introduce you to some of the
Right.
staff. Let me
Right.
introduce you to the cafe.
Right.
Have a free donut. Have a free
Yeah.
cup of
Yeah.
coffee."
Right.
Making it the most hospitable. We're
Yeah.
finding ways to make connections.
Sure.
And so I look for that when I go out to eat as well. Is this
Yeah.
server making a personal connection with me?
Yeah.
Are they finding ways to take this experience
Yeah.
and make it that much better?
Right.
Because that's the way that we as people connect with one another.
Yeah.
And then and I always told my servers this. I was like, what's the greatest gift that someone can give you as a server? Well, to come back through the door and want to be served by you again, to
Yeah, for sure.
request you by name.
It's
And so
great.
I've always encouraged that. The same thing at church. You want people to know you by name. If somebody comes in next week, and last week was their first week, you want them to come seek you
Yeah.
out. Hey,
Yeah.
I had a great time. Or I want to, as a pastor, I want to be calling those people and following up with them.
Sure.
Did you like it? Are there
Sure.
any questions you
Yeah.
have?
Yeah.
How can I facilitate
Yeah.
this thing that's going on here with you and Jesus?
Yeah. Listen, Paige on our team, who now does most of the interviews on the front end, and
Mm-hmm.
she says, um, one size fits one.
Yeah.
If you've heard one residency leadership story, you've heard one. It's true that after you interview a few hundred or a few thousand, you do start to see trends of how it works. This is how God is at work in context. You already mentioned one. The degree is important. We're not anti-education, but this other thing, this
Yeah.
other having doing it while you're getting the degree or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's why we launched Leadership Pathway. I would
Amen.
I would say I'm always been interested in the story of Moses. It's interesting he spends 40 years evidently as a shepherd
Right.
leading some stubborn sheep. And then what's he do? What does he do after that? He leads the children of Israel out of Egypt. I know you had a rough couple of decades, right? It
Yeah.
sounds like, or
Yeah.
2.5 decades, and you're lucky to get out with your life. But I don't think God's going to waste that education.
No. No.
Booking, depending on wait staff. How do you
Right.
get them to show up? It's not just paying them a bunch of money.
Right.
The way you manage, the way you lead, the way you learned about what people are capable of. I'm sure you watch people succeed,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sure you watched people fail on your
Yeah.
team. And what was the difference? And how do you respond? And all those people skill things that you learned for 2 decades, you're going to deploy that in the church a couple of decades. You got a couple
Absolutely.
decades left.
Absolutely. I want to be poured out for the
Yeah,
Lord.
you and
And
me
it's
both.
investment. It comes
You and
down
me
to an
both.
investment. What are you willing to invest? of yourself and of what you have experienced in life to
Yeah.
make those
Yeah.
personal connections, those interpersonal connections.
Now I know David Postier pretty well
Yeah.
where you're working there. I know of your senior pastor, but what would you say to the people? I mean, every week, Mike, I'm in a conversation with a church. And again, we're normally talking about college, young adults, but I'm always saying to them, get your eyes open, whether it's a church of 100 or thousands, get your eyes. There are people around you, there are people in your community looking. My joke is always their granny told them when they were 12 they were going to be a preacher, and they've been doing something a couple of decades.
Right.
I don't know when you first heard someone say to you, think about ministry or whatever, but a kind of a cliche story of someone thought about it, but then they ran off and they ran businesses or they sold insurance or they built houses in the family business, and they're around you. And
Right.
just if you just laid the challenge in front of them and messed with them a little bit, what would you say to what would you say to pastors and leaders out there who are looking for people? They're looking for people like you. How would you encourage them to think about that?
I would say understand the why of what their call to ministry is. This was fundamental for me in business because I got off track. Why was I in business? And I started focusing on the money rather than on the people. But interestingly enough, a Zen Buddhist brought me back to reality. He's a friend of mine, and he said, "Mike, you've lost it. You're missing the point of why you're doing this. So why do you do this?" And we started writing things down. But fundamentally, I love people. And if you're looking for somebody in ministry, what you have to have drive, you have to have motivation, you have to have certain skills that are appropriate for that. But fundamentally, you have to love people. I love people. That's why I ran restaurants. That's why I was good at people. I loved connecting with people and hearing their stories. And that's one of the things that I still love about doing ministerial work here at the church is I get to hear a new story every day. And it's exciting to connect with somebody new. Not only that, but I get to walk alongside people in their struggles, which is something that really resonates in my heart. Why? Because I love people.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that really sets a person apart. Desire and ambition and all those things are wonderful things. And they can grow churches and they can do lots of stuff. But fundamentally, if you don't love people, then you're off the mark.
Mike, we were at a restaurant Sunday evening. We had friends in towns that they just got on an airplane and took off. And these people are very important to us. And
Yeah,
so we took them to one of our favorite places. We don't get to go there very much. Like everything, it's expensive these days, and this one's extra expensive, but it's the food is great. The presentation's great. The environment's great. The waiter didn't love people.
mm,
That would be my summation. Like if they asked me what I thought, I'd say it was all great. And she was fine. She was fine. She laid the food down, you know, asked, "Is anything I can get you?" Something was going on with her. Maybe it was just a bad night. I don't know.
yeah,
Maybe, but I would say to your point, is she in this business because she loves people? And I don't know. I don't know. I'm sure there's a story there. I could go find out.
sure, sure.
What was the best restaurant idea you ever had?
To stop hiring people that don't love people. No, yeah, no, it's I created a document called Hospitality 101, and it came to me from Danny Meyer's book called Setting the Table. And it was all about, and that's when I connected it to that narrative, that Jesus narrative where he was washing the disciples' feet, because that I was saved at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And this was around about the same time that I kind of figured out the why.
Mm-hmm.
And I stopped being in the money business and started being in the friends business. It turned my business around. What would have ended up being a stagnant and dying business ended up being revitalized, refreshed, and became a what I called a connecting point for the community,
Mm.
because um, we stopped being worrying about money. I didn't care about money. What I cared about was the people. Now, part of that is if I had, if I fail, and I will fail, how can I fail forward? That's one of Chick-fil-A's greatest attributes is what they call second mile service. So if you fail, fail forward.
Mm.
But what I would do is I would, take responsibility, apologize at once, and make it right. Do whatever I could to make it right. Now, how that translates from what I was doing then to what I'm doing now is I'm still going to fail, but I want to fail forward. So the next time I get the opportunity to either serve someone or to teach a class or to preach a sermon where I feel like I failed, I want to fail forward. I want to move forward, and that's one of the things that you guys are really good at teaching.
We're trying.
Yeah,
You're about a year, you're a little over a year in there, is that
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Take me back to your first day, your first week. You walk in there, you're like, I'm on staff at a church.
I'm like, what am I
What
getting myself into? What
what
is
was the bit what were
going
your big
on
surprises? What were
here?
your big surprises? And what were the things that you were thinking, of course it should be like this. But then there are other days or moments, I'm sure you're thinking, what are we doing?
Right.
Go back to the first week or day or
Well, the first week was just I didn't do anything.
right.
They kind of like here, get to know some people, and I'm thinking, okay, that's pretty easy for me. I have a different skill set walking in than a lot of people.
Right.
I have a lot of seasoned, interpersonal relationship
Sure.
management skills.
Sure.
So it was easy for me to do that, but I kind of was like, is this all that it's going to be? Is kind of doing this. But then, I walk in November. November, I think it was first, that was my first day. We're ramping up to Christmas.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, man, we are starting to run after week one. It's
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, I'm drinking from a fire hose now.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like they let me have a week of here, just
Right.
get to know some people.
Right.
So I, meeting people, shaking hands,
Yeah.
kissing babies just like I did at the restaurant. But then it's like, okay, now we got to set up for Christmas services. We got
Right.
4 services. We've got children's play. We've got
Right.
women's tea. We've got
Yeah.
all this, and I'm being farmed for my culinary skills,
Yeah.
in organizational skills.
Yeah.
So they're seeing in me, the things that brought me here, and so they're starting to farm that,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
for the church, for the benefit of the church.
We
So
all
I
bring something, Mike.
so I'm now catering for 150 women at a Christmas tea. I'm now setting up a coffee or a snack and refreshment bar for 400 people at a
I love
children's play,
I
and
love
then I'm setting up for 4 Christmas Eve services where we're going to serve 1,200 people. And so it's like,
You're like, I'm
oh,
doing the same thing. It's just I'm not getting paid. I used to make
right,
money doing this.
right. So it was an eye-opening experience. It's like,
Yeah.
in church world, that those are like the times when it just gets nuts,
Yeah. But you
you
know what
know.
I've heard, Mike, for 25 years now. I've met so many people. I'm like, tell me your faith journey. They're like, well, somebody invited me to this goofy Christmas thing here 7 years ago.
Amen.
And it was a good time. Our family, and then we came back in January, and then we came back at Easter. But then something, and something happens, and then and then we gave our lives to Christ, and our family was transformed forever. And now, it's one of the beautiful things of being our age.
Amen.
Normally, I'm doing these interviews with a 22-year-old, so I can say, Mike, you and me, we've seen the long story arc of people's and their lives.
Absolutely.
And as we know, many they never kick addiction. They never fundamentally bow their knee and submit and come to Christ, and they never have but thousands of others come through the doors of these places at
Yeah.
Christmas
Yeah.
and little kids programs.
Sure.
I've sat in these programs with my own kids, and now I've seen video of my own grandkids now doing. It's like the paparazzi are down front taking the pictures of the kids up there, but you never know who the aunts and the uncles and the cousins and the family and you set it up and they're there, and it could be a life-changing, a
Yeah.
life-altering moment
Well,
that
I
Christ
mean,
is at work. That's the
that's
beauty. That's the beauty of where you are now.
That's my testimony, and I was standing up doing announcements the week before Christmas, encouraging people to invite somebody. I said, the reason why I'm here now is because somebody like you took the time to invite me to church. And I wouldn't, and look at me now, 18 years later, I went from addict to pastor. I'm
Yeah.
standing in front of you as one of your pastors.
Yeah.
So make the
So
invite.
great. Listen,
Make the invite.
I'm indebted forever for the education I got.
Amen.
And I talk to people every day that are getting an education. The danger of Christian education and MDiv,
Mm-hmm.
which we need. I'm not again, we need it. Somebody has to be the theology hawk to not let these things go off the rails. But we forget sometimes. We forget. Just invite your friend.
Yeah,
Will you invite your friend to the Goofy Kids program or to the Christmas Eve thing and
yeah.
see if God's going to do something miraculous in their life?
Sure, sure. Most of the kids that are walking through this educational process, they go immediately from bachelor's, whatever theology, bachelor's in biblical studies, immediately jump into seminary, and that's exactly what I did. But
Hmm.
I started at 46, and now I'm 53, and I'll graduate from seminary when I'm 55,
Hmm.
with my MDiv in pastoral care and counseling. Um, but and I thought that was it. I really thought that was it until I kind of like, what? After I had a really bad experience with the church as their kind of interim pastor,
Hmm.
where it was a very unloving thing that happened, and
Hmm.
I ended up leaving that church because of it.
Hmm.
I don't want to cast any dispersion on them. They're wonderful people.
Yeah.
They're just kind of struggling through what they're struggling through right
Sure.
now. But I thought that was over for me. I thought, what? Maybe it wasn't. This isn't my calling. But one of my pastor teachers at CCU said, Mike, every pastor walks with a limp.
Yeah.
Stay in it. God has called you to this. I can
Yeah.
see it in you. I know that you're supposed to be here. Just keep on. Every pastor walks with a limp. It's probably not going to be the last time this happens to you.
Right.
So fast forward, I start to see the need for a mentor. I need somebody to help guide me in this. And so that's exactly what I started praying for.
Mm.
In fact, a lot of the people that I was
Mm.
praying with at the time that I was in Chick-fil-A were praying the exact same thing for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
And so when you know this opportunity came forth, I didn't understand it at first. I was like, why not?
Yeah.
Basically, that was what
Yeah.
was passing through my head. Let's
Yeah.
give it a shot.
Yeah.
But now that I see it, and my, the pastor that sits over me is 20 years my younger. He's 32 years old.
Right.
And we laugh about it all the time,
Yeah.
but he's wise in
Yeah.
ministry. He's
Sure.
got more experience than
Yeah.
I do. And I'm wise in life. So
That's right.
we there's an exchange there that is so beautiful,
Yeah. Yeah.
because God has orchestrated it. He's helping me and I'm helping him. But then I look at the leader of our church, Phil Holland,
Yeah. Phil.
um, and he's I think 46,
Right.
so he's younger than I am too.
Yeah.
But he's got now 18 years of ministerial
Right.
experience, and
Right.
what a seasoned and
Yeah.
fantastic leader he is.
Yeah.
That's growing this church, but he's doing it methodically. He's doing
Right.
it with
Right.
Christ at the
Right.
center.
Right.
Um, and so I couldn't have asked if I reached out into the world and picked
Yeah.
two pastors to
Yeah.
sit under. I couldn't
Listen,
have picked them better. I couldn't have picked them better.
Mike, I mean, I've been at this for both full-time pastoral roles as well as people looking for an entry-level thing like what you're doing.
Yeah,
And there are days it feels so random.
yeah,
Someone just and they click on something, but then a year later, they're saying stuff like what you're saying.
yeah,
Or someone says, a buddy of mine said, "We're looking for you ought to think about the internship or I forget what they call it, a resident. You should click on this thing and it feels so random. Like
yeah.
maybe I'll be an astronaut. Oh, I'll be a youth pastor. A year later, they're saying to me things like what you're saying. I couldn't have drawn this up. God is at work in this stuff.
Amen. Amen.
If he wasn't, I would have quit a long time ago. I will
Yeah,
tell you that.
yeah. Yeah.
But I also know if I could talk my way into being the GM or the manager, the shift manager of a nice restaurant downtown Denver. If I let's pretend they were so desperate they hired me, it wouldn't take 3 days, and
Yeah.
I'd be quitting or fired because I don't know how to do that,
Right.
and I would be coming home saying, "Well, I guess I can't be." But if I could find a 33-year-old who had been doing it a decade to show me how to do that job
Right.
at some point in the future, and it might take 2 years. I don't know. Would it take a month or 2 years? Eventually, I could be a restaurant manager. I am
Yeah.
convinced of that.
Absolutely.
And I just look at your worlds that you've lived. Um, they're very similar. Now, being a pastor at a church, you're handling holy things. You're not handling silverware and cooks and wait staff and what you are doing is on front. It's a little more frontline work in the spiritual realm, right? Local
Right.
church in America,
Absolutely.
a little different than running a Chili's.
Yes.
So I do not underestimate that it's very similar. And then at some point, the restaurant work, it stops and this pastoral stuff, way more risky.
Yeah.
How is it different? How have you, so there's ways it's the same. You could probably do that. Three things I learned in it's exactly like it. You've talked about the hospitality. Now give me, how is what you're doing now so different than what you did for a couple of decades in the restaurant business?
Well, at the restaurant, own it, especially when you're the owner, you're the end all. That's where it lands. You bear the ultimate responsibility for the success or failure of the restaurant. I mean, apart from your faith in Jesus and how that works itself out. I don't want to minimize that at all. But at the church, that's like the thing. It requires the team effort to make it work. And there's no one person that really is standing out over and above other people. We're all trying to pull in the same direction.
Yeah.
That's one thing that you try to build that in your team at the restaurant. uh, Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But that's really, really one of the most important things that is different about the church is that there's really no one other than Christ that sits above anybody else.
Mm.
Obviously there has to be an order of things,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's not treated like that. It's treated like we're all we're all cohorts. We're all
Mhm.
working together. How can we help each other make it better? And so we have a culture of don't say no here at the church. Somebody honestly comes and asks you for help. We're not allowed to say no
Right.
unless we have a very, very good reason.
Right.
Where at the restaurant, it's somewhat more selfish and
Yeah.
self-centered.
Yeah.
Um, and that's one thing that was radically different. Two is I'm not managing people that I'm paying.
Yeah.
I've taken over the host ministry.
Okay.
Uh, and so I manage on any given day 25 to 45 volunteers.
Yeah.
I'm not
That
paying
would
them.
be a big restaurant.
Right. I'm not paying them.
Yeah.
And so, I can say things that I would say at the restaurant because I'm trying to get something done, or I could
Yeah.
say it in a way that as an owner, that would get things done. But those communications have to be different here at the church. Because if I say things in a direct way, in a direct manner, unless there's some danger or something like that, um, that I would have said at the restaurant, I wouldn't have any volunteers anymore.
Right. Right.
And so you're really part of the shepherding role is tendering people's hearts towards Christ and
Yeah.
helping them to understand that what they're doing
Yeah.
is then service to the body, which is serving Christ.
Yeah.
And so it's a whole different impetus
Mm.
to what's going on rather than I'm going to put dollars in your pocket.
Yeah.
So,
You mentioned you were invited. Is that what you said? You were
yeah,
invited to a Christmas service or something?
yeah, yeah,
That's what started the faith journey.
yes. So
Who
this
in, who
this was
invited you? Who was that?
my girlfriend at the time,
Okay.
who was a Lutheran, and we were both unsaved.
Yeah.
We actually met at the bar that I owned.
Okay.
And so we were both using, I was using alcohol and drugs at the time.
Yeah.
She was using alcohol.
Yeah.
Um, we were good Christians that went to church on Easter and Christmas,
Right.
you
Right.
know. But she invited me to go to her home church where she was kind of did youth group, and
Hmm.
it's a local church here in Denver called Bethany Lutheran,
Sure.
big church
Yeah.
there off of
Yeah.
Hampton.
Yeah.
And I went there, and this is my salvation story.
Yeah.
But I got high and drunk before I went, which is my modus operandi for going to church at that time.
Okay.
Never felt the presence of the Lord, never wanted to feel the presence of the Lord. I was
Right.
just doing this basically to placate her,
Yeah.
because she wanted to go to church. It was Christmas Eve. In the moment that we're there, the arc lights were lighting the candles on the pews, and one of these younger people was trying to use the little oil canister thing to light the Advent as well. Well, if you tip those far enough over, some of the oil
Yes.
pours out, lit the Advent on fire, which by this time is a circle of dried
Right.
kindling.
Yes.
Basically, the whole thing goes up in fire. The whole and the church is just in a ruckus, trying to throw holy water on the fire, put it out. But in this moment, Dave, I everything goes silent in my head, and I can hear nothing. And I feel the presence of the Lord coming upon me, and I'm feeling it right now. I'm feeling the movement of the Holy Spirit, but
Yeah.
I can feel this so intently in my soul, and I hear the words. I don't know if it was audible or just in my head, but it was no more. And I knew, Dave, at that moment that I was saved because I was sober.
How about
I,
that?
because it was different, and I knew I was sober because it was different from before. I was
Yeah.
clear. I
Mm.
was there. I was present, and then I knew that forevermore that I was saved,
Yeah.
because the Lord in that moment he came and he impacted my life and
Mm.
changed me forever.
I
So
love
I,
it.
I mean, and when I'm part of the recovery ministry here at Valley View.
Yeah.
I can't tell people this. I
Right.
can't tell the people that are my addictions class that I teach on Tuesday nights that this is how I got saved, because they're like, why can't I? Why doesn't this happen to
Yeah.
me?
Yeah.
And I say, well, some people, I don't know. Lord works on each of us differently, but the Lord has called you to sobriety because
Yeah.
you're in this room.
Yeah.
He puts the people here that He wants in here. And so, that was my salvation story. I
Yeah.
walked out of that church that night, never did drugs again. And Dave, I tell you this
How about
with
that?
with all sincerity, that I was doing OxyContin and cocaine.
Yeah.
I was mixing them, I was smoking them, and I was just short of starting to inject them into my veins. I'd been using them that long, but this is what God does. He takes the broken things and He redeems them for His purpose. And so, when I speak about this, and encourage people in recovery, I'm living proof that God does.
Mm.
He does. He's in the business of restoration.
Yeah.
He's in the business of reconciliation. And so now when I'm at the church, that's kind of the thing I work through, is
Yeah.
that God
Yeah.
is.
Listen, from a flaming Advent candle
Yeah,
to where you are today, where's it going? Where's this going? Like the children of Israel, it's like a cloud by day and a pillar of fire. Like who knows? Who knows? When it moves, we move,
exactly.
right? Where
I
do you
couldn't,
where do you see it heading for you out there?
wherever God leads. I can't,
Yeah.
and that's the thing I can't
Yeah.
tell you, because
Yeah.
when it's me
Yeah.
striving
Yeah.
to get some end out of
Yes.
it,
Yeah.
it's not God's.
Right.
And so I have to submit to His will,
Right.
whatever it is in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know a couple of things. I know because when I got here, I thought that I was going to be the preaching pastor. I'm the call. That's my calling. I'm going to get up on stage and I'm going to say the message. I'm going to make it. Oh, I'm going to bring down the fire and the brimstone. But now, after what God has revealed to me over the last year, I know that I thrive in the one-on-one. I thrive in that interpersonal. So I've actually changed my MDiv from
Mm.
biblical proclamation to pastoral care and counseling,
Like that.
because I meet people where they are, and I can help them walk through one on one.
Mm,
And that's where my gifting is.
mm,
And this whole process has helped me figure that out,
mm,
because I've always known that I'm good at helping people walk out of addiction and really do that, but I didn't see that in a pastoral setting. I saw it more of just a lay ministry, uh, through the lay ministry that I was doing. But now that I'm here and I see the people week by week, they come to me now and say, Mike, I need to talk with you.
mm,
Let's go over here into the next steps room, or the meeting room, and let's talk about it. Let's figure out what God wants out of this struggle that you're going through. Because he's doing something in your life. How do you understand that? And so but I wouldn't have understood it if I hadn't if
mm,
I hadn't come here
mm.
and
So good.
seen that. I would still probably think that I was going to be some great sermon. I was going to be Charles
Yeah.
Spurgeon of 2026. And that I can do that. And
Yeah.
these people are helping me to form
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But where my gifting truly
Yeah.
is in this one-on-one,
That's so
where we
cool.
can, we can come
Listen,
together, we can agree to seek the truth together.
right. Listen, I assume when we started with Valley View, your church where you are, we probably were thinking about some 22-year-old to help the youth pastor or the musicians or the tech, because that's where these things normally start. And then up pops someone, and you're like, I don't know, what about this guy? It's a little different. It's not just a 22-year-old college grad. He's done some stuff and he's on his path. And I'm just so glad. I'm just
Yeah.
so glad it happened.
Yeah.
And the thing is you're into the second year, and
Yep.
we have seen the second year, the path again, like Paige says, one size fits one person's one story. And where this stuff goes, it's going to be fascinating to watch this second year unfold in front of you. And listen, he had to set a Advent candle thing on fire to get your attention.
Yep.
Who knows what he's going to do this year?
I
You
can't
just keep
wait to
you just have
see.
to keep following. Yeah,
Can't wait to see.
it's a journey.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm going to shoot David an email when I'm done here saying thanks for the opportunity, David Postier and Phil and the team at Valley View. What a great story.
Yeah.
Thank you for telling it.
Dave, my pleasure, buddy.
All right.
Thanks so much.
Mm.